And the last thing I just want to say, if we can come to camera one here real quickly for me.
Camera
one. I want to address camera one.
It's my
You know
least
what?
favorite camera.
I saw a lot of people on social media complaining about Jackson Smith and Jigba's horrible day, fantasy-wise as well. 4.3 fantasy points, his wide receiver 64 as we head into Monday Night Football. Here's what I have to say to you guys. Screw you guys. Shut the hell up. You don't get to complain about Jackson Smith and Jigba. Are you kidding me? You've got an unbelievable year. He has massively outperformed ADP. Yes, he had a bad day at the office. You don't get to complain. Some of us are out here with Justin Jefferson. Are you kidding me? Do not say one damn word about Jackson Smith and Jigba. You know what you say? Hey, Jackson Smith and Jigba, thank you so much for the entire year. Bad day at the office happens to the best of us. Get him next week. That's what you say. Wow. Shut the hell up about your complaints about Jackson Smith and Jigba. I saw people bitching on social media, and I'm like, how dare you? How dare you?
Very loud.
Yes.
Camera one worthy.
Fantasy Football Happy Hour with Matthew Berry.
Welcome to the Fantasy Football Happy Hour, Waiver Wire Day. Connor Rogers, Lawrence Jackson, Jay Croucher, Matthew Berry, still the screamler somewhere.
I am Matthew Berry.
You are Matthew Berry.
I was gonna say.
Screamed so loud yesterday with my Bijan Johnson Robinson jersey on that my skin changed color. So here I am, still mad at people who complaining about Jackson Smith and Jigba.
Yeah, much leaner, much faster, Matthew Berry.
Yes.
Much less dyed, cokey, Matthew Berry.
A little bit more hair.
More hair on top.
Do a little something.
And the chin.
Yeah.
Definitely the facial hair. Yeah.
Glasses.
But we still here. We still.
Well,
Matthew
if
Berry.
you weren't Matthew Berry, in a world that you're not, we're going to ask the chat, where do you think Matthew is today? And we got some really great options. Undergoing elbow swap surgery with Jayden Daniels, on a plane to Baton Rouge to join Lane Kiffin's staff, practicing kicking to replace Younghoe Koo.
Yeah.
Kicking, in quotes. Hosting Fantasy Football Happy Hour with Todd Zeal, the spin-off show.
Wow. Yeah, Matthew doing a little Devin Williams segment with Todd Zeal. That'd be great.
My vote
What
would
great
be
content.
my vote would be that he's going to Baton Rouge to be on Lane Kiffin's staff.
What's his title?
Yeah.
Analyst?
Like some type of data analyst. He get to be on the field with it too, so he look more important. Just
Chicken tender specialist?
Yes. Give him some gear. Give him one of the headsets.
Yeah, he's definitely wearing a headset.
yeah.
He's not saying anything into it, but he's
Right.
listening.
Yeah.
Can you imagine Matthew in a GM type of role? He's like Joe Dumas with the two phones. Can't turn them on. That'd be great.
Incredible.
Yeah,
Incredible.
Joe Berry.
That's a good one.
Don't worry, we're going to recap Monday Night Football, the blowout. The Patriots handled their business against the Giants. We have our favorite early week bets, as we always do on the Waiver Wire show, looking ahead at Week 14. That's during last call, though. We'll revisit that poll in just a little bit. Let's get right into Waiver Wires, though, and start with who's on a bye week, because if you're looking to pick people up, you might be down one of these guys. Christian McCaffrey, who's been unbelievable, especially with the volume he gets week in and week out. Rico Dowdle, kind of a down week for Dowdle, as Chuba Hubbard, who's also on this list, blew back up. TreVeyon Henderson and Rhamondre Stevenson in that Patriots backfield. Tyrone Tracy hurt on Monday Night Football. We'll kind of keep an eye on that, a hip injury. And then Devin Singletary, who did get a lot of work in that Giants backfield. But let's jump right into that conversation, guys, because maybe even if you feel good about your roster and you can survive a bye week, Devin Singletary now becomes the top guy on the list here, Lawrence, at 78% available. He's got the Commanders, Vikings, Raiders, and Cowboys after that bye week, especially with 15 touches last night.
Yeah, it's definitely not a schedule that you hate there, Connor. You look at the snap rate from Week 13 versus the Patriots. It's been fairly even these past few weeks as well, too. And you mentioned Tyrone Tracy being hurt, and we had to monitor that. But if you go back to 2 games before, the 2 weeks before, Devin Singletary still got double-digit carries in those games with Tyrone Tracy. A couple weeks ago, he also stole a couple of touchdowns away from him, too. So he's been viable. So if he's still on your waiver wire now, this is somebody you could be putting right into the starting lineup. You know, so especially you won't have him this week, but you'll have him for the fantasy playoffs.
Yeah, very favorable schedule as well for the Giants going forward. Commanders, their run defense, the Vikings, whose defense isn't nearly as fierce as it was last year, and you can run on Minnesota. And then the Raiders, who do have a reasonable run defense, but not a particularly good team, and so there should be game script there. So pretty favorable for Devin Singletary. I thought, Connor, that Dwayne McFarland had a great tweet earlier today highlighting that Jackson Dart didn't have a single designed rush attempt last night.
Are you shocked?
Yeah, and they were negative 13% pass rate over expected. And Dwayne put it somewhat poetically that the Giants are trying to run out the clock on the 2025 season.
It really felt that way. I mean, third quarter, they're down multiple scores, and it's run after run. And New England was happy to go with, we'll bend a little, but we're not going to break and give you an explosive. You literally run out the clock is how it felt. And it's efficient because it counts in fantasy, Lawrence, and it tells you a lot about the Giants' offense, but it was very bizarre.
Yeah, when you say, hit the reset button for next season, when you got guys hurt like Cam Scatterboo, Malik Neighbors, you want to just get Jackson Dart into that next year, get him with all the guys healthy, then really see what he could do. Because, whatever he's doing now, Jackson Dart, hands kind of tied behind his back. Coach just got fired couple weeks ago. So, but the shout out to the Patriots who pretty much did all they damage in the first half, dropped 30 points and pretty much ended that way for them.
Yep. There's a question from Aloha Bricks, Singletary or Mason, which one is the better pickup? Who you got there, Lawrence?
I would go Devin Singletary.
Yeah, I think so too.
Jordan Mason still behind Aaron Jones.
We got to keep an eye on his injury status.
That's important too.
Giannis' answer to this is who has a bigger role because of the injury of the other guy in their backfields.
Right. So if Aaron Jones and Tyrone Tracy's healthy, I would take Singletary because he's eating into that more. You feel different about it if the status of Aaron Jones is different because then Jordan Mason's just full workhorse role in that instance. But overall, I think I would like Devin Singletary a little better.
Yep. It's interesting, Connie. So I don't think that there's a 0% chance Mike Kafka wanted to call the game like he did last night, but it seems like he got a directive. Like
it was odd.
Yeah, the aim is not to really push to go 5-11 instead of 3-14. The aim of the season is to keep Jackson Dart healthy.
Right, and you can only protect him from himself in so many ways, as we saw. No designed runs, literally having him hand the ball off in a situation where you need to be in a throw script. But he's still going to take off and do some crazy things.
Also, not going for it on 4th and 1.
Crazy.
Yes.
Week 5, that's a Jackson Dart sneak or some sort of design play.
Down multiple scores.
Yeah.
You still saw some of the mobility, the scrambling ability, the scrambling and then throwing it to the end. Like, you want to see some good play out of him still, but you want to get out unscathed when it's all said and done.
Our next running back, guys, Bam Knight, 74% available. It's been very strange in Arizona as we haven't gotten a ton of updates on Trey Benson over the last weeks when we thought he'd be back. Bam Knight, 11 carries, 62 rushing yards, 3 targets. He catches all 3 of them for 36 yards. He gets a receiving touchdown. When you look at his performance against the Bucs that they lost this game. They have the Rams, Texans, Falcons, and Bengals. So maybe a guy that it's a weird one for me, Lawrence, because it feels like he's more appealing closer to the fantasy playoffs and even the fantasy championship, but is he still the guy by then?
Yeah, and also too, can you make it that far with him? Can you get through the Rams? Can you risk starting him versus the Houston Texans to get to Atlanta and Cincinnati? Then when you think about the fact that he's merely a touchdown-dependent fantasy asset, he scored in 3 straight games, which is good. It's just that if he doesn't score, you know what you're going to get, and that's likely single-digit fantasy points. Then you got this guy, Michael Carter, hovering around. He's got a 50% snap rate over the past 3 games. Still would feel more comfortable with Bam Knight over Michael Carter. But
me too.
Just because we know this is a pass-first offense right now, so we need that touchdown when it comes to Bam Knight, and that's really the major factor in it.
Yeah, I think the encouraging thing is that he was able to do this against Tampa Bay's rush defense, which is perennially one of the best rush defenses in the league, so long as Vita Vea is out on the field. So the fact that he was able to have a really strong fantasy day, pretty efficient real-life day, I think the key is that he gets the 3 receptions for 36 yards, gets into the end zone, not expecting that out of the receiving game. But yeah, Rams, tough. Houston, tough. But at the same time, Jonathan Taylor just had put up 85 rushing yards and had 36 receiving yards against the Texans. Now, Bam Knight's not Jonathan Taylor. He's not Jonathan Taylor, but that you can get receiving yards as a running back against the Texans.
Right, especially some of the scripts they play are just absolutely wild. We got another comment in the chat here. Snow day here in Kansas City. says Andrew. Watching the show with my daughter, and she loves Lawrence's frog and toad shirt.
See,
That's awesome.
Lawrence love the kids, man. That's why. I got a young buck myself. My daughter actually said something about this shirt too before I left the house, man. Andre, shout out to you and your daughter. We appreciate y'all support, man.
Yeah, massive upgrade as well, going from Matthew Berry wearing a Bijan Robinson jersey the day after he lost to the New York Jets.
Yeah, it's funny. No, but I'll tell you something funny about that, right? Because, Jay, you usually known as the bandwagon fan on this show.
Yeah.
But every Monday I clip this show on. I see y'all three fellas up here talking. He got a new jersey on every week.
Every time.
Whoever had the best game.
Yeah.
Matthew Berry is wearing that jersey. I think he forgot that the Falcons actually lost, though, because it happened on the last second field goal.
And as good as his day was, Tyler Allgeier stole another touchdown.
Another touchdown.
Also, it has to be noted that the week prior, Matthew wore the Matthew Stafford jersey coming off of the Stafford 3-touchdown game against the Bucs to vault him into MVP favoritism. Subsequent to that, and Matthew spilling a full full cup
why you
of
do
Diet
that
Coke
to the Stafford jersey?
Stafford immediately has his worst game of the season. So I think the Diet Coke may have cursed Matthew Stafford.
Burks and Flannels asked, is Lawrence sticking to that chair? Yeah, it might be still Diet Coke covered. Oh, my goodness.
I smell it.
Our next running back here, guys, Chris Rodriguez Jr. has taken over the Commanders' backfield. He's 76% available against those Minnesota Vikings, by the way. 11 carries, 41 rushing yards. Most importantly, Jay, he got in the end zone, which, as this numbers show right there, he's touchdown dependent for him to be viable in your flex. But to be fair to him, he's scored 3 of his last 4 games.
He has, and I mean, it's no joke getting 26 carries across the past 2 games. There's a favorable schedule coming up as well. At the Vikings, their rush defense not particularly imposing. At the Giants, who have the worst rush defense in the NFL. And then home to Philly, who just got absolutely annihilated on the ground by the Bears. So I think the way to look at this is, as Matthew often says, you don't feel great about any of the Washington running backs, but you feel best about Chris Rodriguez.
Yeah, 4 straight games with at least 1 goal-to-goal rush attempt there for Chris Rodriguez. Clearly, he's the running back they prefer, but not by that much. But what I think I like about Chris Rodriguez in this situation is that the Commanders as a whole, you saw them against the Denver Broncos, they're still competing. The offense putting up the amount of points that they did versus that tough Broncos defense gives you some hope as a long shot flex for him.
Some other deeper league targets here, guys, on the running backs list. Blake Corum against the Cardinals. He's got 84% availability coming off a strong week. We've just seen more of Blake Corum this year. I guess it's hard to really predict when he'll have a big week, but with Kyren Williams seemingly always banged up, guys, Blake Corum, a risky play, but definitely a guy you have to have on your roster if you're going this deep into the year with Kyren Williams, Lawrence.
This one very interesting to me because not for just the next game, the end of the season, but for beyond. Like, I think what happened in the past with Todd Gurley in his knee, that kind of shook Sean McVay up. Because you see how he been doing his running backs ever since. He went from Todd Gurley to Darrell Henderson. When he was done with him, he went to Cam Akers to Kyren Williams, and now you're seeing Blake Corum, and he's looking better, too. He's gotten a lot better just overall from last year, even in pass protection. So he's someone, I would put him with the rest of the guys on this list just based on the offense that he's in. So Blake Corum, you better have him if you got Kyren Williams, but I'd pick him up even if you don't.
Yep, over a third of the team rush attempts in the past month, Blake Corum. And all, to your point, kind of like Kyren Williams is constantly banged up, hasn't really had a great season overall, I think, relative to expectations and how well the Rams have done. But yeah, Blake Corum, some standalone value, and he's kind of a similar case to the next man on our list, Tyler Allgeier.
Yeah, Allgeier, a guy that he's getting more work. They even saw him throw him the ball in this game. He's obviously going to steal touchdowns, plenty. Allgeier, 58% available because of how much work he's been getting. And we have a question here, guys, from Ruben. Corum over Allgeier rest of the season. What do you think of that, Jay?
I would take Tyler Allgeier just because of the consistency of the role, the fact that the schedule is not that imposing for the Falcons down the stretch, and also just you're very confident that he's going to get goal line work. Whereas with Corum, there's Kyren Williams to navigate, and there's also Matthew Stafford's fade routes to Davante Adams.
It's Davante Adams, big gap, Kyren Williams, and then sometime Blake Corum. For Tyler Allgeier, it's more often than not. He's scored in 3 of his last 4 games, so definitely with you there with going Tyler Allgeier.
Bhayshul Tuten also makes the list. He's got a huge matchup week 14 against the Colts. Only 56% available. I think people are expecting a big boom for Bhayshul Tuten right now, Lawrence. But what we can hang our hat on is he's got 5 straight games with multiple red zone touches.
Yeah,
and a good offense.
Yeah, and just a couple of weeks ago, him and Travis Etienne both carried the ball 16-plus times. Both had over 70 yards. So I think it's all about the game script for them and how it's going. That's why you kind of see these up and down weeks. I think we as a whole, even going back to the beginning of the season, kind of rode off Travis Etienne a little bit. He's proven to still be the preferred back there. But Bhayshul Tuten against the Colts, I think a Colts team that's reeling right now.
Right.
They hurting. Woody Marks was solid against them. I think Tuten could have a nice game against them.
Yeah, you can run on my Colts, unfortunately, particularly with DeForest Buckner not out there. There's just a huge dependence on Grover Stewart. Overall, this Colts run defense, it's just not a great run defense when Buckner's not out there. And, yeah, I mean, they had a chance to get the ball back at the end of the game. They couldn't stop Woody Marks and a suspect Houston offensive line. So Bhayshul Tuten, reasonable chance to score a touchdown.
Our last running back, Tyjae Spears, he's got 3 straight games with 4+ receptions. We say this every week with Tyjae Spears. It feels like the ceiling is really, really low, but some kind of floor, specifically in the pass game, exists with him.
If you need 8 points,
right,
Tyjae Spears, he is your man. He's got a 15% target share since week 9, and the Browns, their run defense is the best in the league effectively, and so I don't think that they're going to be trying to run up the gut against that front, and so I think it's going to be a lot of dump-offs to Tyjae Spears.
Yeah.
Do you know the total for this game?
No, I don't.
I want you to guess
let me guess. It's definitely the lowest. Prior lowest, 34.
33.5? Yep.
33.5.
Yeah.
No respect for Shadus.
It's going to be a great game, probably.
I'll take the under on greatness.
Take the under on greatness. But because it's Cam, Ward, and Shador, it definitely got some flair to it. But to Tyjae Spears, 3 straight games with at least 4 receptions, any type of carries he could get is a plus here. But out of all the guys we just talked about, Corum, Allgeier, Bhayshul Tuten, I probably would like Tyjae Spears the least out of these 4 guys. But like you said, the 8 points, you have to just expect that. Don't go in there, he got some upside.
Right.
No upside. Take that 8 points and be happy.
That's right. All right, let's go to the wide receivers. Pass catchers in general on a bye week here, guys. T-Mac, Teteroa McMillan, who's been a little touchdown dependent lately. Wan'Dale Robinson, who's kind of the opposite. You just hope for short volume with Wan'Dale, but he's been great this year. Stephon Diggs, Jawan Jennings, Kayshon Boutte, Ricky Pearsall trying to work his way back into the action and fantasy relevance. Been quiet since his return. George Kittle, not quiet since his return. He's been one of the top tight ends in fantasy. Hunter Henry, who's always on the fringe of being a tight end 1 week in and week out, and then to a lesser extent, but because Jackson Dart is back, Theo Johnson. So let's jump into who's available, guys, and we start with Jayden Higgins, 65%. They got a huge matchup on Sunday Night Football against the Chiefs. You guys will be in Kansas City for that matchup. But Jayden Higgins, 5 targets, 5 catches, 65 receiving yards. Another guy that it feels like Jay is now establishing a floor, because at least Stroud's looking his way, Davis Mills looked his way, and you always have the upside of scoring a touchdown because of his red zone presence.
Yeah, and it makes sense that, young rookie receivers, they get better as the season goes on, as they get more acclimated to the offense. Stroud, obviously a huge upgrade on Davis Mills. So we look at his past 4 games where he's had at least 4 receptions and 5 targets. In all those games, he's scored 2 touchdowns in the past month as well. And to me, the thing that's interesting here, Connor, is that I think this is a favorable matchup against the Kansas City pass defense that I don't really understand why, but just hasn't been that effective unless they're playing a quarterback with a broken leg. Outside of that, teams have been able to move the ball. It just feels like the pass rush isn't quite what it was. Chris Jones has gotten a little bit worse. There's Carl Aftis, and there's not much else. I think the corners are fine for the most part, but there just seems to be no pressure.
All right, it's how long can they cover out there when, once again, the pass rush isn't consistent. Chris Jones has seemingly, and this just happens with age, he's gone from a great borderline elite player to now he's a good player.
Yeah.
And I don't think the Kansas City front can afford that, Lawrence, if they want to go out there and consistently be a good team.
It'd be nice if some of their younger pass
the bigger
rushers
issue at hand.
stepped up there. But look, if they don't get no pass rush, Jayden Higgins, wide receiver 23 since week 10, that is solid, especially for an offense that hasn't been lighting it up all year. They've been without their starting quarterback. They just got him back. Jayden Higgins taken in the second round, and he's pretty much doing now what they drafted him to do, come in, be that number 2 guy. And like we just talked about, if there's no pass rush, I don't see how this is a tough matchup for the Houston Texans.
Yep, they're only 3-point dogs in Kansas City, a Texans team that was looking like its season was done. At 0-3 they started, and then for Stroud to go down. But right now, I mean, they're playing as well as anyone.
They've got experience going out there. Just a couple years ago in the playoffs, they was out there in Kansas City, so it's not going to be no shock to them to, try to get it going. CJ Stroud, I think the arrow pointing up for him too.
You can argue, besides New England, and even Denver, like those two teams find ways to win, but Houston's arguably the hottest team in the AFC right now, or at least the team that you wouldn't expect this, but I don't think anybody wants to play. Like, they could just single-handedly win on the back of their defense, and now if Stroud continues to get settled back in, they're almost a complete team.
If the offense was playing like below average the first half of the year.
The line was really bad.
If they just like solid with that defense, we talking about something. Just think, last year we talked about like CJ Stroud, like sophomore slump. This year happened. But he could possibly be in the playoffs for 3 straight years.
Right.
So that's pretty good.
He's won a playoff game each of his first 2 seasons.
Yes.
He's won playoff games on the road as well. Question from Brandon, Higgins or Watson for this weekend? I would lean Christian Watson just because, 1, more faith in his role in the offense, and then 2, I think probably more touchdown equity, and I think as well, not terrified of the Bears secondary, even though they are getting players back.
And this is up in the air, but it doesn't seem like Jayden Reed's a lock to be back this week, which would just be another mouth to feed in the Green Bay offense.
A.J. Brown had his best game of the season against these Bears in a losing effort. 2 touchdowns, 132, 10 catches. I don't think Christian Watson's the type to go out and get the 10 catches, but he could get you 132 on a lot less catches. So definitely Christian Watson.
The other thing, too, is like Jordan Love, he goes on these heaters. Like, he's extremely up and down. The back end of 2023, I think, his like final 10 games, he's like 21 touchdowns and 1 pick, something like that. He had a really good stretch from week 11 to week 17 last year. And now he seems to be in the zone again, 3 very good games in a row, even though statistically it didn't show up against the Vikings. He played well. And now, at home against the Bears, you take a step back, and Christian Watson is the #1 receiving option for the guy who right now is 3rd favorite to win MVP in Jordan Love.
We go from Jayden Higgins, guys, who's established a great floor in the Texans offense, to Adonai Mitchell, which is more of the ceiling play all of a sudden in the New York Jets offense. He's 97% available, so there will be some bidding wars out there for Adonai Mitchell coming off a week where he had over 24 fantasy points, 12 targets, over 100 yards. He catches the touchdown. He finishes the week as a top 5 wide receiver in fantasy. We got to hear from Aaron Glenn this week on their thoughts trading for Mitchell and why he just wasn't a throw-in to that Sauce Gardner deal.
He's here for a reason. And, sometimes when these things happen, these trades happen, sometimes, people think that he's a throw-in, but he was never a throw-in. He was a guy that we wanted. And listen, we watched him coming out of college. He's actually from my hometown, and he's a true X. The body type is a true X. He has good speed. He can win one-on-one. So, I just look forward to seeing him progress as the season goes and, for him coming back next year and being a huge part of what we're doing.
Okay, so Connor, Adonai Mitchell has a 30% target share since joining the Jets. He just had 12 targets in the NFL game, goes 8 for 102 and the touchdown. How real do you think this is, and what's the outlook going forward?
Well, there's no sign of return for Garrett Wilson, which gives you confidence that the volume is real. They're still throwing at John Mechie. He had a couple drops in this game, but it's Adonai Mitchell. I think what was promising here, Jay, is that with Adonai Mitchell, we know he can win deep. He's big. He's got speed. You're going to see corners respect that. Now he was eating them up in the intermediate area of the field, the short area of the field, and he was catching the ball, which kind of was one of his problems coming in when he came over to the Jets, especially from Justin Fields. Tyrod Taylor is using him as the primary read constantly in this game. So, Lawrence, I think, are you going to get 8 catches over 100 yards and a touchdown every week? You're probably not. But the Jets are in plenty of throw scripts. Tyrod Taylor is completely competent at getting his number 1 wide receiver the ball. He does this with Garrett Wilson when Wilson plays. And Mitchell is a guy that capitalizing on a new opportunity.
Yeah, and we talked earlier about the Giants kind of kicking the can down the road into next season. Well, what have the Jets been looking for on offense ever since Garrett Wilson got there? A number 2 receiver.
Right.
So if Adonai Mitchell can show he could be the number 1 now while Garrett Wilson is out, well, then that's the small risk you took in bringing in Adonai Mitchell. And I believe Aaron Glenn when he says he wasn't a throwaway, you're talking about the intermediate and the short game. That's actually something I thought he could do out of college, but it just didn't work out with the Colts. Got in a receiving room where the talent was too even. Then he had the stuff off the field that the coaches got tired of him. Great. I think it was not a great move, but a good move for both sides.
Right.
So I think Adonai Mitchell will continue to be that top receiver for the remainder of the season. Like you said, Tyrod Taylor is getting the ball to him.
Yeah, and the thing is, too, is you take a step back and, why is he not on the Colts? Well, because he's not as good as Josh Downs or Alec Pierce, basically, on the outside. And also the fact that, the other reason he's not on the team is because he fumbled away a 50-yard touchdown, right? That he actually did catch against the Rams before, obviously, the mental mistake of fumbling it out of the end zone. But, I mean, he's super talented. He was a high draft pick. And if he's going to get the targets, and Tyrod also, I think there's the perception, mainly because maybe the Buffalo time with Tyrod, that he's a game manager. Tyrod's not a game manager. Tyrod chucks it deep. He will air it out, which is perfect for Adonai Mitchell.
Yeah, you talked about him not being better than those Colts receivers. He's not today, but it wouldn't be shocking if he was in the next 2 to 3 years.
Raise the flags chiming in here. Is Connor excited to be talking about A.D. Mitchell instead of Alan Lazard on his Jets podcast now? Yes, it's a nice change.
I bet you are.
It's a good change.
Yeah, at least he's
Hope.
young. Yeah, that's what it is. It's hope.
Things looking up for the Jets because, Aaron Rodgers was looking a lot better a month ago.
God damn it, everybody was like, trade Breece Hall to the Jets. No, keep him.
Yeah.
Let's see what happens.
Winners of 3 of the last 5, guys. Speaking of hot teams in football.
Yeah.
Hey.
Oh, man. All right, the top wide receiver targets. Let's take a look at some deeper league ones after Higgins and Adonai Mitchell. Jayden Reed, who we mentioned previously, he's working his way back. Kind of a sleeper on the waivers because he has that little IR spot next to his name. But I've stashed him in a couple of leagues, 62% available. There are going to be weeks, assuming he gets back soon, that he'll be the number 1 target in Green Bay's offense. Dontayvion Wicks, though, kind of picking up the slack without him. He's 99% available. Devaughn Vele getting much more work now. He's out there in every league. Luther Burden, obviously with the Bears offense, you kind of got to pick your spots. Pat Bryant getting more usage with the Broncos. And then another rookie wide receiver in Isaac Teslaa, who's got the Cowboys. If Amon-Ra St. Brown doesn't play, Lawrence, I mean, you could be looking at a comfortable place for Teslaa in the slot where he played for Arkansas.
I would not be mad at him, especially putting him in on those leagues where you got like 2 or 3 flex spots.
Right.
He could be that guy if you directly have Amon-Ra St. Brown. Now, clearly you saw that once he went out, it was like we got to see why Jameson Williams was a first-round draft pick. But Teslaa, he gets in there. We know he could play all around the formation. And that's the versatility that Dan Campbell likes. So definitely a long shot flex play. Keep an eye on Amon-Ra St. Brown's status.
Yeah. Connor, on Jayden Reed, who's always been one of the most fascinating receivers in the league, to me, the start of last year in the first month, he had 2 different games of having 138-plus receiving yards, and he did it against the Eagles and the Vikings, who are arguably 2 of the 4 best defenses in the league last year. Whenever I watch him, he's always reminded me of Deebo Samuel, like a younger Deebo Samuel, but it's never really clicked over any sustained period.
Right. I love that you bring that up, Jay, because what I love about him is when you watch the Green Bay offense, it's a lot of downhill run game, shots down the field. Yep. And that's been the story this year without Jayden Reed. But with Jayden Reed, he gives you a little bit more of the scheme stuff. Even if you just throw him a ball on a drag route and let him run, you get him going in the screen game, he can win down the field. I think that's more of a product of the Green Bay offense. They do run really hot and cold with Jordan Love and LaFleur. But in terms of upside, I guess Christian Watson has more because he catches so many deep balls. But Reed is the guy that you could actually see, Lawrence, they go into weeks with him with game plans tailored towards his ability with the ball in his hands.
Well, yeah, that's because I think the whole offense changes when he's in there. To your point about Debo, I will say this. They're not going to run Jayden Reed in between no tackles. That's what they won't do with him, but they will give him that jet sweep. They will get him the ball at the line of scrimmage, and I think that dimension of the offense is kind of missing, which is why we see these inconsistencies with the Packers offense. And you brought up Jayden Reed last year. He was a top 5 receiver in fantasy for the first, 5-6 weeks of the season. So we know that's in there for him, but it's like when he gets in, when he comes back, how long is it going to take? What's the usage going to be like? Because we just mentioned Dontayvion Wicks had a big game. It's still, even though Christian Watson is having these games, it's still like, who's the top guy in the Green Bay wide receiver room?
He's such a strange player because he's like a slot receiver who's dependent on deep passes.
Yeah.
He's like the only guy in the league
And he could do that.
of that ilk, and he can do that. And you know, a lot of his production last year in the first month was, you know, catching it was like a 70-yarder against the Eagles in the Brazil game where the corner slipped on the turf and he ran into the end zone. But still, he's got upside. The issue is that when they go 2 wide receiver sets, like he's not in the field. Like they've gone with other guys. It's, you know, when healthy, it's Watson and then Wicks or Dobbs on the outside. But I mean, also you throw Matthew Golden still into this mix.
It's crazy.
You have like legitimately 5 wide receivers.
How many people did we just talk about before you just mentioned that?
Yeah, I mean it's
That's about Tucker Kraft being hurt this year.
Yeah,
Like if Tucker Kraft was healthy,
that's who really was the guy.
he's the guy. Yeah, just got hurt.
You have 5 different guys who would all have a case to be the best, at least outside receiver on the Bills. Like all of these guys, in terms of talent,
They would take Dontayvion Wicks.
Yeah, over
They
Keon
take-
Coleman and
They take Christian Watson.
They might have one of them next year
yeah.
at this rate.
Yeah.
All right, let's go to tight end, guys. Brenton Strange, 68% available. He's coming off of week 13 where he had 4 targets. He caught 3 of them for 45 yards, and he gets the touchdown. Brenton Strange has been really solid since returning from injury. It feels like whenever he's healthy, a very good option. He's got the Colts, Jets, Broncos, and Colts again here, Jay. So outside of Denver, not a crazy schedule for him. And I'm sure a lot of people at this point of the fantasy season are just streaming tight ends weekly in and out.
Yeah, the thing with Strange is that he gives you something that is fairly foreign in fantasy, which is consistency from the tight end position. Liam Cohen has always been good at scheming up, you know, screens, short stuff. I don't understand why they were using Brenton Strange as the hub of the screen game instead of Travis Hunter, but Travis Hunter's not there anymore, so it's Brenton Strange's show from that front. Also, my Colts, not particularly good against tight ends. They allow the 4th most points per game in fantasy to tight ends. And so overall, Brenton Strange, particularly with Parker Washington, has to be under some doubt to play in this game, given that he wasn't able to return on the weekend. So I think that a lot of the intermediate stuff, a lot of the middle of the field stuff is going to go to Brenton Strange against the Colts.
Yeah, if you're out there and you got a tight end dilemma, just a couple of guys that I would start Brenton Strange over would be Mark Andrews right now. Ravens offense struggling, and I don't see the a light at the end of the tunnel for that. But when you got Lamar, it could happen. But I don't know what's going on in that offense. So I'd take Brenton Strange over Mark Andrews. And Kyle Pitts, he had a good game against the Jets, but remember there was no Drake London in that game. So if Drake London comes back, then give me Brenton Strange in the offense where I don't think Trevor Lawrence is just pinpoint hooked on Brian Thomas Jr. So, solid little play.
I'm going to watch that game alone in a dark room. All lights off, just locked in, some AFC South football, division on the line. Very scary as a Colts man. Also because it's the house of pain, historically, for Indianapolis. It can't win in Jacksonville no matter what. So, yeah, hopefully Brenton Strange goes down.
Dalton Schultz, also on our list, just meets our threshold at 54%. He's got the Chiefs, as we said, on Sunday Night Football. The Cardinals, Raiders, and Chargers on a Saturday game. 8 targets in Week 13. He caught 7 of them for 55 yards. We've seen plenty of target share this year, Lawrence, from Schultz. And this is a guy that C.J. Stroud will gladly lean on when he needs to.
8+ targets in 5 of his last 7 games. 20% of the teams, of the quarterback's targets in that stretch. This is the thing here. Kansas City, and I forgot to mention this earlier when we were talking about who was the receiver from
Jayden Higgins?
Jayden Higgins.
Yeah.
That over-under in that game is 41.5. It's because neither of the offenses, Kansas City or the Texans, have been lighting it up. It's going to be cold as hell. But one thing I think you could count on is the tight ends getting some work in this game. That's what you want to do in these frigid temperatures of Kansas City. Though to keep it short, and Dalton Schultz will be that guy. Finished as a top 10 tight end 5 of the last 7 weeks. So solid play against Kansas City.
Yeah, I think the familiarity counts for a ton. And Dalton Schultz has an established rapport with CJ Stroud. They played together for a while now at this point. And so Stroud, I think, despite the emergence of Jayden Higgins, his 2 most comfortable weapons still are Nico Collins and Dalton Schultz.
For sure.
Ryan Diamond saying, gotta ditch those socks.
No, sir. You ain't seen these chocolate ankles. No, sir. I don't do the ankles on Peacock.
The chocolate ankle.
Oh, man. High in the country said...
the vanilla ankles of Matthew Berry?
He got them vanillas.
Oh, terrifying.
High in the country said, too much info to absorb. This show is so on the rails. We need Grandpa Berry story time.
Unbelievable.
That is great. K. Gemma said, Count Chocula.
See, I think I opened up the chat to some.
They're very comfortable
to some weird jokes. So my bad, Count Chocula.
Oh man,
that
all
is
right.
something.
Count Chocula.
That is
the
something.
deeper league targets at tight end. Of course, Harold Fannin. He's always on this list. 67% available against the Titans. Just beware of the point total being 33.5 points. Colston, Loveland, Darren Waller, Evan Engram, and A.J. Barner all reach availability. Lawrence, is there anybody on this list that you would be a desperation streamer?
Jay, why you start laughing when Connor said that point total
33.5.
33.5 for the.
Yeah.
You don't think that's gonna be? You don't think there's gonna be a shootout?
It's gonna be a shootout? No, I don't think so. I think it feels like another Quinshon Judkins, 25 carries for 77 yards.
Tyjae Spears 4 catches, 18 yards.
Yeah, he did him dirty with the 77.
This is what he does. It's not his fault either.
No.
Myles Garrett might break the sack record in one game. I think he's got 3.5 to go, 4 to go.
This is a game to do it. Yeah.
Always good to see Stuntman Chuck in the comments. We need an Australian anecdote to break up the flow of information.
That's Shane Falco from The Replacements.
I believe
Yeah,
so.
that
Stuntman
is,
Chuck, very consistent.
Yeah, The Replacements.
One of the great quarterbacks of our time.
One of the 70 best football films ever made, The Replacements. An absolute
One of the 70 best.
So would you rather watch that or the over-under of the Browns and the Titans?
I love The Replacements. I love bad films that are watchable. My favorite movie of all time, outside of Magnolia, is Point Break. I'm not a fan of great cinema.
I'll take Cam Sanders,
personally.
He kind of say, give me 2 quarterbacks who threw for 35 touchdowns in college last year.
Yeah, like Keanu Reeves in prison singing Aretha Franklin to his teammates.
I just think Connor don't think that Shane Falco is on the same level as Cam Ward and Shador at this point in his career.
That's true. That's fair. What happened to Cam Ward on the weekend? I thought we were on the right trajectory.
We were.
He fell off a cliff.
To be fair, he feels like he's playing with an XFL offense. J.C. Latham, Josh Hines-Allen.
Yeah.
Probably had 100 pressures, it felt like, even though he didn't. It's just bad for the Titans, right?
It's not like the Jags have a great pass rush.
Let's simulate to next year for the Titans, please. Give Cam Ward some hope.
Yeah, need a receiver.
All right, let's go to the quarterback. Speaking of Cam Ward, although I don't think we're going to be worried about streaming him in the 33.5 point list. The quarterbacks on the bye: Drake Maye, Jackson Dart, Brock Purdy, and Bryce Young. Drake Maye, one that you really feel is he's been QB5, 20 points per game. And when Dart's healthy, a lot of QB1 weeks for Dart. Let's go to the waiver wire, though. CJ Stroud, 61% available. Yes, the big Sunday night game against the Chiefs, who we said you can throw on. He's coming off a week where he had the early interception and then he settled in. Stroud spoke this week on just the chemistry building in this offense under Nick Caley.
As a whole, we've gotten better. We found our identity, I feel. And I think, we're starting to play well together. It's a lot of new guys playing together this year, so we're starting to get that chemistry down and that connection, and you can see it, playing and play out, and route detail and, play calls and me getting to play in, organization of the, formations and everything like that. So I think, we're doing a better job at that, and then, the execution has picked up.
So the touchdowns haven't been there, especially last week specifically, guys, for Stroud, but he's throwing the ball plenty in the yardage where maybe some positive regression coming C.J. Stroud's way, Jay?
I think so. I thought he played overall really well against Indianapolis. He had the one terrible, kind of inexplicable interception, and Stroud will have those moments of madness. He's like Trevor Lawrence with the madness meter toned.
He doesn't melt after that.
No, he doesn't melt.
Yeah.
He got right back on track. I thought that he was making very quick decisions and getting the ball out quickly.
Yes.
And also, Nico Collins seems to have turned the corner a little bit after a very strange start to the season. And I think it just makes sense that, this is first year in a new system under Nick Caley. I think the offensive line, which looked like it was just going to completely submarine the team, it feels like they've gotten that a little bit more under control. It's not going to be a strength of the team, but it's not going to be a crippling weakness. Right. Now with Higgins' emergence, with the safety blanket of Schultz, and with the tier 1 elite talent of Nico Collins, I think this can get back to looking a bit more like the offense at the level it was in Stroud's rookie year.
I agree. I mean, Nico's just looked awesome recently. You bring up Schultz, and C.J. Stroud is really good. I think we sometimes just forget that because he's been in a situation where it's a lot of turbulence with the play calling. The line was brutal to start this year, and like you said, Jay, they look more viable now. Not great, but viable. The thing is, though, they're not good enough that they can lean on their run game, which helps C.J. Stroud in fantasy.
Yeah, you talked about the volume of throws, 35-plus passing attempts in his last 3 full games. And here's look at the theme. We've already talked about the wide receiver 2 on the Texans. We've talked about their tight end.
Right.
And now we're talking about C.J. Stroud. This is why, since Week 9, Kansas City Chiefs ranked 30th in pass defense, and we talked about that too. We talked about Chris Jones not having a pass rush. Now, when you put that together with that offensive line that's not perfect, plus the fact that C.J. Stroud is starting to play more like he did as a rookie, it kind of bodes well for him to have a solid day here, which he had. We just going to need the touchdowns to start coming with it. We regular football playing good, fantasy-wise, we're going to need a touchdown or two because he doesn't give us much with his legs.
Yeah, I think there's a little bit of an underwhelmingness around Stroud because, after his rookie season, he came into his second year as like 5th favorite for MVP. And people were like, this guy is going to be, the next great quarterback. Yeah. And I
Joe
think
Burrow level combo.
And he's not that. I think Stroud is like the 12th or the 13th best quarterback in the league. I think he's settled somewhere into that range with the Jared Goffs and the Brock Purdy's of the world, which is fine. That's an above-average quarterback, and those guys get paid $250 million. Yeah. And in terms of fantasy, I think that the pushback against Stroud is that, like, DeMeco Ryans and this team, they play like they know they have the best defense in football, and they're just going to be conservative and not going to air it out a ton. But going up against the Chiefs, Sunday Night Football, going up against Mahomes, you would suspect that they may lean into the pass a little bit more. And so I think that Stroud, the fact that he had 276 passing yards and has gone back-to-back games with 275 plus, I think that's very encouraging. And I think he can be, a high-end QB2 rest of the way.
Some deeper league targets here, guys, real quickly. Marcus Mariota and Tyrod Taylor, they give you some rushing as well, as much as both guys threw the ball relatively solid last week. J.J. McCarthy, if you're feeling risky. But keep in mind, besides McCarthy's own struggles, the Commanders, we make fun of their defense a lot. Since Dan Quinn has taken over the play calling, it's been better. Yeah. Not great, but not a punching bag. And then Trey Lance, you'd only be starting solely because of the rushing if he has to play against the Eagles. If you need a defense or a special team streamer, as we look at our poll results back up here, guys, it's cut off because the voting is just, there's so much of it right now. Everybody's getting involved. It looks like
Younghoe Koo.
Younghoe Koo replacement is the leading option. Matthew kicking, that would be.
To be fair, the Younghoe Koo, his kicking performance last night, the one man in America that would surpass would be Matthew Berry, who would have stubbed his toe, but at a further place back.
Yelling in agony.
5 yards back.
Yeah, exactly.
And blaming the turf.
Yes, exactly.
Yes,
looking down on the turf.
Yeah. Who didn't cut this patch of grass?
Yeah, exactly.
The excuse there.
What's interesting there is that him teaming up with Lane Kiffin was by far and away the lowest amount of votes in the
Nobody bought that.
People don't think he got the chops to be a GM or something.
Yeah, him and Lane would be some kind of party.
Oh, man, who you telling?
Real quick before we go to break, let's take a look at defense and special team streamers if you need one. The Bucs against the Saints, the Dolphins against the Jets. Obviously, these options are not great. The Titans against the Browns, that is the lowest total of the week. the Colts against Jacksonville. But once again, like some of these offenses have been kind of punchy. So hopefully you're not this desperate at this stage of the season. We are going to take our first break. When we're back, talking Drake Maye, MVP favorite, and what to make of the Patriots' backfield rotation. Our Monday Night Football recap right after this.
Drake, have you ever been on this kind of role in either this sport or any other sport, hoops, golf?
Golf, I like that one. My brother's, this summer, I was on a roll a little bit. No, but I think, back in high school, we won 13 straight. But, really, I think, with college, I think we may have won 8 or 9 straight, in football, both in football. But, no, this is a different beast. This is the NFL.
That was Drake Maye. As we look at the notable fantasy performances, no surprise to see him atop the leaderboard yet again, 20.5 points, which is right around his league average. Then a whole lot of Giants in a script where they were down heavily, partially thanks to their dreadful special teams. Well, let's get back to Drake Maye here, guys. Jay, what do you think of him being the odds-on MVP favorite right now? It feels like one tough loss for the Rams and Stafford gets bumped down?
Yeah, I would still make Stafford the favorite. I think Drake Maye can absolutely win. I think he's clearly the second most likely player to win. But, how many top 13 defenses Drake Maye has played this year?
It can't be their schedule. They have a last place schedule.
0. He hasn't played a top 13 defense all season in terms of at least EPA per play defensive ranks. You know how many he will play? By the end of the season, barring some change in those rankings?
1.
0. He will not play a top 13 defense all season. He's played 2 defenses that rank in the top 21.
Do voters care about that?
I think they will hold the schedule against him a little bit unless he beats Buffalo out of the bye. And then I think that it kind of becomes a coronation. But I think if he goes into Seattle in that Thursday Night Football game, wins that game to win the division, I think Stafford will win MVP.
Yeah, that's what I say, because when you talk about the schedule, Jay, it's kind of similar to Matthew Stafford. So to see those two out front and center is not a shock. Yes, the Rams beat the Seahawks, but they beat them by 2 points. Stafford only completed 50% of his pass. That was on the heels of the defense. They picked off.
He didn't play well that game.
Right. So it would have to be a Stafford type of game. And I think this loss, while obviously it wasn't enough to take Matthew Stafford out of the running, but that loss against a Panthers team, which is better than we think, but still shouldn't be close to the Rams, I think that was just enough to put Drake Maye out ahead. But of all those guys on that list, those are the two favorites. But if we're talking about a guy outside of that who could come up and get in this thing, I think it's Dak Prescott. He was in it a couple years ago. He's got two of the best wins in the past 6 weeks. They beat both Super Bowl teams, and if they do it again, especially how the offense is humming, I could see his odds getting chopped in half.
They beat the Lions on Thursday night. How much movement do we see for him?
I mean, he'll probably go 7 to 8 to 1 range. I would fade at that price just because he has to win every game. Right. He can't take another loss. And also, he needs help because he's got to win the division. So he needs the Eagles to lose games. Dak's not going to win us a wild card, but if he can win the division, which is like 7 to 1 type of range, and he wins out, and then, Stafford loses in Seattle, Drake Maye doesn't get the 1 seed, the Broncos get it, then I think Dak could win. I think that if Stafford and Maye fall over and Jordan Love comes home with a surge and gets the 1 seed, and they're like 7 to 1 to win out as well, I think he's a chance. The only long shot that I think is any chance at all, really, if Josh Allen goes scorched earth for 5 weeks and beats Drake Maye head-to-head and wins the division, and Allen's like 30 to 1 range, he's the only guy I could see coming from the clouds, just because we've seen Josh Allen have these 5-week tears where he just looks like God, and he's so correlated with Drake Maye's failure that I think that Allen would be the guy to come from the clouds. Yeah.
All right, guys, one more note from this game. The New England backfield, Rhamondre Stevenson gets the start. He does out-snap TreVeyon Henderson here, Lawrence. Jay, good call on TreVeyon Henderson's longest rush.
Got there in the end.
He gets it in the fourth quarter. We're all sitting watching that one.
We'll take it.
You take it, yeah, exactly. But Lawrence, it's not that it sunk TreVeyon, but clearly they're still going to lean on the vet in Rhamondre.
For sure, and going forward, it makes you feel like, hey, those runs near the end zone, Rhamondre Stevenson's going to get it. We saw Rhamondre get a little love in the receiving game early in the game. I think it kind of alludes to just the fact that last week Rhamondre Stevenson may or may not been fully back yet. And I don't think there was ever a time when we thought that TreVeyon Henderson was going to completely take over this backfield. They still trust in the veteran back. They're two different types of backs, change of pace running backs. I think that's kind of how we see it play out the rest of the way.
The only other way to put a bow on this game, Younghoe Koo, you drink for free today,
yes.
Our dear friend. Who did it better? I'm going to say Charlie Brown.
Oh, no. That hurts the toe.
Oh.
It's hard to find the parallel. The only thing I can think of is one time Dirk Nowitzki rose up to shoot a jump shot from the left sideline and just didn't shoot the ball.
I'll say this: at least old Charlie Brown, he didn't get stuck.
Right.
His little cartoon toes kind of gracefully went across the grass or the pavement and got the kickoff. Although he slipped and bust his ass, Younghoe Koo. My man just stubbed his whole toe. He kicked into the dirt of Gillette Stadium.
Yeah, I like, Lawrence, that you change up your pronunciation of Younghoe as to how you were pronouncing it in the ad break. You've decided to go with the correct pronunciation now.
Yeah.
That's how the OGs say it.
Younghoe Koo is how I say his name when I'm in Atlanta. That's how, when we in Atlanta, we call him Younghoe.
All right, we're taking one last break. When we're back, we got our favorite early week bets for last call. Shout out to you. DraftKings Sportsbook is an official sports betting partner of the NFL, and new customers can bet $5 and get $200 in bonus bets if your bet wins. Download the app and use promo code FFHH when you sign up. DraftKings Sportsbook. The crown is yours.
Be yours.
Last call, early line alert, week 14. We've been pretty steady with these. Let's see if we can keep it going. Jay, what do you like?
Taking the Browns -3.5 against the Titans. That game has been much maligned in this show, but give me Cleveland here. I think their defense is going to be too overwhelming for Cam Ward.
Lawrence, what about you?
Give me the Eagles -2.5 right now versus a Chargers team that I don't know if I'm convinced as much over the past 2 weeks. Not greatly convinced about the Eagles either, but I think their defense bounces back.
Guys, I'm going to look at Thursday Night Football, and I'm going to take the Cowboys getting 3 points against the Lions. I know it's a road game, but the Cowboys, they got it going right now.
Yep.
They have to
humming.
win. They have to win. Not that the Lions don't, but yeah, they're absolutely rolling. That's it for us. We'll be back tomorrow with Matthew in the bunker, a backup producer, Pete Day for Lawrence and Jay. I'm Connor. See you guys tomorrow.